Hello everyone, and welcome back again here. And so today, it isn't a day in my life video like I promised. I'll remind you, I also promised you part 2 of Phoenix Wright the musical. And it's been 2 years. Well, here it's for the basic reason, which was that I found out while trying to edit that video that you could very easily trace back my home. I've already said multiple times that I live in Le Mans, but Le Mans is a big place, so that's not a big problem. There's over 200,000 inhabitants, if I remember correctly, although I could be completely wrong. So yeah, that is not a problem. I mean, one out of 200,000 inhabitants, that's not really a problem. But the problem was that I showed exactly where I took the bus every morning, and I also accidentally showed a shop that was near where I live, from which you could very easily pinpoint my location. So yeah, I decided not to put up a video. And luckily, not too long ago, yesterday as of recording this, I'm recording this on the 19th, Game Fairy just put out a FNAF video. Good joy of joy. Oh, good old Game Fairy. Oh, Matt Pat always helps with these kind of things. So anyway, yeah, that is what we're going to be watching today. We're going to be reacting to Game Fairy FNAF, The Secret Afton, FNAF Security Breach. I already know where this is going. This is going to be quite fun. Well, anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Oh, wait a second. To put up the volume. And actually put on the volume. That's better. And full screen.
Have you ever heard of Fortnite, Gregory? You need a floss. You need a floss, Gregory. Well, this is embarrassing.
Yep, scrap trap.
I'm gonna let you guys have this one, and I'll see you next game. I always come back, and you know the bit.
I always come back. Ah, burn trap.
We just win?
No, we did not, superstar.
Yeah.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game
I love
Theory,
music.
the show that's proud to pick the nerdiest option available.
Anyone that picks Monty Golf is just a nerd.
Oh, shut up,
Gator
Mark.
Golf. Joke's on you, Mark. Fast Cam is OP. Plus, being a nerd allowed me to discover the secret daycare room and sister location room. So who's the nerd now?
You. You just stated it. You just said it.
Last time we dove into the time travel ball pit that is Five Nights at Freddy's security breach, I walked away with some, let's just call them divisive conclusions. Basically, it was an episode with 3 separate theories packaged together. We proposed one, that Glamrock Freddy wasn't just your average sentient animatronic, but rather was possessed by the spirit of Michael Afton doing everything he can to protect Gregory. This one was generally well received, so cool,
Yeah.
let's keep going.
I mean, I'm no FNAF expert. Oh, far from it. I'm just someone who's been invested in the franchise since 2015. I remember the first video of FNAF I ever watched was the Halloween update, Markiplier's Halloween update for FNAF 4. Because my friend, actually, at the time I was spending 3 months, August, September, October 2015, I'm spending it in Holland, in the Netherlands, with my grandmother. And there, I made a few friends. One of them was called Nick, and it was actually he who got me into FNAF, actually. And we had watched a few videos together, especially Smosh Games' honest trailers for FNAF 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Oh, those are my favorites. Oh, the following trailer is rated H for honest. Sitting on your ass doing absolutely nothing. I could quote that for days. But yeah, and actually the first video that I'd watched without my friend Nick, all by myself, at night was the Halloween update. And I remember that because it was the day that I actually left Holland. Yes, I left Holland on the 1st of November. My mother actually drove 8 hours from where we live in Le Mans all the way to Holland. At the time she was living in Groningen. Since then, she's moved over to Rotterdam. No, to Den Haag. She lived in Rotterdam, then Groningen, then she moved over to Den Haag, sorry. But yeah, and so she drove 8 hours there, and then for 8 hours way back, I binge watched all of Markiplier's videos for FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then when I came back, while it was still the holidays, I spent it with my grandparents. And on my grandparents, I remember, a memory that'll be with me forever, I watched a video that still scars me to this day. It was Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Sesame Street, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. It was an absolutely horrific video on YouTube with it mixed up Sesame Street and FNAF in such a cool way. I still think to this day that was a cool video, but man, did that thing scar me. Like, at the time, wait a second, 2015, which was 7 years. Wow, I'm old. That I was 9 years old at the time. Yeah, imagine that. For what if you watch Five Nights at Sesame Street? I think since then it's been deleted. If not, I will try to find the link down in the comment section and the description down below. Don't watch it. Honestly, don't. Unless you want to be scarred like me. But yeah, that scarred me. And then I spent 3 days. I am not kidding. I spent 3 days in bed. And every time I would get out of bed to go to the toilet, I would be scared. I was afraid that their version of Cookie Monster or Elmo or Big Bird or Freddy was going to come out and kill me. Oh my goodness, I don't know how I even survived those 3 days. I was so scared. All that I could do all day long was just sitting in my bed, lying down, scared out of my life. Although, I did binge watch a lot of Mark and Jack. Because yes, I started watching Jacksepticeye. And also PewDiePie. I was actually part of a 9-year-old army. I actually did start watching PewDiePie when I was 9 years old, now to think of it. Yeah. My god, 2015. I started watching Mark, Jack, and Felix. 3 of my favorite YouTubers. Still to this day, actually. Anyway. Description aside, let's continue. But yeah, anyway. I went on a very long tangent right there about how I got into FNAF. A very long tangent. But yeah, I do agree that Michael could be Glamrock Freddy. It just makes a lot of sense, I find.
Why would Michael protect this random kid? Well, because 2, Gregory, whether literally or symbolically, is Michael's younger brother, FNAF 4's crying child. I started to lose people at this point, but it was really theory number 3.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second, is he going to say...
throw us for a loop, because there's a good bit of evidence in both the game and in the history of the franchise to suggest that 3, Gregory is a robot, the crying child...
Yeah. I also don't believe this theory. Nothing against you, Matt. Matt, don't worry, I'm always going to be a supporter of game theory. But Michael being a robot, that doesn't really make much sense. Actually, just the entire idea of Gregory doesn't really make much sense. I mean, how did he get into the pizzeria in the first place? That's something that I'd like to know. The way, what I think, and just my personal headcanon. Actually, no, I'm not gonna say it. This just sounds outlandish. It sounds even more outlandish that Gregory's a robot, so I'm not even gonna try and put up my theory out there because I know it's almost 100% gonna be wrong. But yeah. I don't believe that Gregory is a robot. I mean, there is some evidence, for example, when he's at the charging booths with Glamrock Freddy at the end of each hour, the fact that he can stay in it and not get electrocuted or anything like that, that does prove somewhat, yeah. But other than that, no. And the line "you are broken," yeah, that could be about a reference to the crying child. I will put you back together. I honestly don't think so. I do believe that Gregory is supposed to be a stand-in for the crying child, that is for sure. I am absolutely sure of that. But I think it would be far too much of a stretch to say that he is the crying child. I think he's supposed to be like a stand-in for the crying child, but I don't think he is. It wouldn't really make much sense. Unless, of course, yes, of course, entire thing, but in the books, that in the trilogy, Charlie is a robot and she lives her entire life without anyone knowing it. None of her friends know it, but still, it could be. It could be, but I hope that Steel Wool doesn't go down that rabbit hole. For a good in-depth analysis of this theory, I actually watched Dorko's video.
Child's consciousness literally transplanted into a robotic body sometime after he dies in the bite of 83. Oh, and there were a lot of strong opinions on that, but some people really liking the theory, and others, not so much. Suddenly I was flooded by...
Sans nest! Gregory is crying child. No, I don't... He could... Okay, I'm going to change what I just said, okay? I'm going to go back on what I just said. He could be the crying child, but he doesn't act or doesn't have the memory of the crying child. I mean, nothing that Gregory says during the entire series, even during the entire game, even hints that he has got anything related to 1983 at all. I mean, yeah, if we're going by what I think, and we say that FNAF security breach is at the end of the timeline, which would make sense, because it has to be after FNAF, it has to be after Sister Location, because Michael has to be dead, it has to be after FNAF 3, because Afton is Bird Trap, it has to be after Pizzeria Simulator, because we actually see Pizzeria Simulator, and it has to be, of course, Bird Trap, and also Michael is supposed to be dead. We do also know, other thing is that, thanks to the blob, we also know what happens after FNAF 1, because you can see Bonnie and Chica, if I remember correctly, and it also has to be after FNAF 2, because you also see the puppet and... the puppet. Yeah, you see the puppet, and then the other one is the baby one I'm thinking of right now. So other than that, it has to be at the end of the timeline. Also, because there's Vanessa, it has to be after Help Wanted. And Help Wanted, as far as I know, or as far as I remember, because I haven't read anything about the FNAF timeline in a long time, if I remember correctly, Help Wanted is supposed to be the end of the timeline, meaning this has to be afterwards, meaning that this is the very end of the timeline, okay? So knowing that this would happen around the mid-21st century, let's say, I don't remember, honestly. Like I said, I do not remember. And Gregory is born in 1983. Or like the crying child is supposed to be killed in 1983, okay? How is it that Gregory... I mean, yeah, there could be that Gregory gets his memory wiped or that he doesn't remember anything, but I just don't like that answer all that much. It wouldn't really make much sense. Although, this is FNAF we're talking about. It wouldn't really make much sense anyway. Well, also another thing is that you have to remember that it has to come after Fazbear Frights, the books, okay? So I would actually like, and that's what I'm actually going to do afterwards, that I'm actually going to go back and read up on the summaries of the books that were there, because since we know when Security Breach was supposed to come out, I could look into the books that happened, with Security Breach, in the Fazbear Frights novels that were supposed to come out after Security Breach, and then just like try to look and see, okay, so yeah. For example, the Afton amalgamation definitely was supposed to happen in Security Breach first before happening up in Fazbear Frights, that's for sure. The Afton amalgamation was, of course, supposed to be a blob. I honestly do believe it's supposed to be a blob. Sorry, pardon me. Let's continue.
People saying that I had rushed it out just to ride the trend, or that it was my dumbest theory ever, to which I say no. Deadpool is Ernest Hemingway is my dumbest theory ever.
Dumbest theory ever. I am sorry. Deadpool is Ernest Hemingway. Dumbest theory ever. Sans is Ness. The women's boobs in gaming. Are you telling me that those two aren't dumber? Or at least more ludicrous? Deadpool is Ernest Hemingway, that's fine. I honestly don't really see why people think of it as being dumb. I mean, I like it. It's on the same par as Sans' Ness, I think. I mean, it's a ludicrous theory, but that's the whole thing. They're supposed to be theories. They're not true. They're not a statement. They're not a fact. It's not film fact. It's not game fact. It's film theory and game theory, and also food theory. But anyway, they're supposed to be theories. You're supposed to laugh and have fun, and also learn a few things, because God knows I've learned some things. The number of tests that I've been able to pass thanks to game theory and film theory. Matt, I will always be grateful for the amount of times you've actually helped me. Anyway, and like for example here, I did not know I'm French. In France, we never learn about Ernest Hemingway. If it weren't for that theory, I would never have heard of Ernest Hemingway. I'm British. Well, technically not. As you can hear from my accent, I've got Northern Irish heritage. I don't have American heritage. And we never learn anything about American history or American culture in any way. I've learned it through watching videos on YouTube. But how many videos on YouTube do you see that talk about Ernest Hemingway on a day-to-day basis, honestly? Thanks to that, I've actually read The Old Man of the Sea, thanks to him. Don't appreciate it all that much. I understand why he says in it that he doesn't really like Hemingway. I understand why now. But at least I do know him now. So yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Closely followed by Wario being 10 feet tall. Anyway, the outcry was so huge that I ended up trending on Twitter because of it. You know, didn't get much better from there.
Well,
Weird
Twitter.
side note, later in the same week I was trending again because a group of performers juggled to the song Megalovania during an event for none other than the Pope.
Oh,
It only
yeah.
took 5 years, my friends, but it looks like that Steam code I gave him for Undertale finally paid off.
They called me a madman.
Anyway, like I said, a lot of heated opinions on the last one, with Twitter basically boiling down this 18-minute long 4,000-word theory down to this single image. So, yeah, thanks for not...
Oh my goodness, that is so true. I've had a long day, okay? I need to laugh.
Including literally
Man, this is going to be so hard to
from that
edit.
last video. So before we get to the next theory all about Vanessa, let me just address some of the biggest counterpoints I saw to the previous theory. Not because I'm convinced I'm right, far from it in fact, but because I think that the Gregory is crying child theory currently fits the best with everything the game has presented to us thus far. First, one of the key pieces of evidence last episode was this line right at the start of the game where
You are
Freddy says to
broken.
Gregory,
I feel you are broken.
this, to me, was a clear connection back to the crying child from FNAF 4, where psychic friend Fredbear says to him, "You are broken." I mean,
Let me
that
put you
speaks
back
for
together.
itself. It's a parallel that's made stronger when you actually remember how that line gets delivered back in that game. There was really no way of knowing back when FNAF 4 was released, but thanks to a secret room found in Sister Location, we know that psychic friend Fredbear is actually a plushie with a walkie-talkie inside of him. A walkie-talkie that allowed William Afton to scare and manipulate his youngest son. Father of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. Also know
Yep.
that throughout FNAF 4, all of William's lines use the color
Game Father of the Year.
FFFF57, a bright golden yellow. Golden bunny, golden yellow makes sense. But the iconic final lines of "You're broken, I will put you back together" actually is a different color. A lighter yellow. FFFFA0. Back then, we never really came to a satisfying explanation. Was it a mistake? Was it another spirit? Was it maybe the puppet? But now, 7 years of investigation later, we know for sure. Someone else is indeed talking here. Someone who, in Sister Location, is mistaken for his dad. Someone who turns purple just like his dad. Someone who can't die
Michael.
like his dad. And someone who had the lines immediately prior apologizing to his kid brother, but when that didn't get through, decided to try comforting him through the voice of his best friend. It's Michael Afton, represented by a lighter color of yellow.
The problem is that there he says, "You are broken, I will put you back together." If he literally puts his brother back together, if he literally puts the crying child back together, that would mean that Michael would have the same skills as his father and as Henry Emily in building the animatronics. If you remember Henry Emily in the books, he builds Charlie in 4 different stages of her life. Baby, child, teen, adult, if I remember correctly. Okay? And he also builds the core of the original 4 animatronics. William Afton, on the other hand, William, he's the one who built up the Funtime animatronics, right? Never anywhere else in the game does Michael ever build things like that. Michael is the one who fixes the mistakes. He goes dismantling them. He dismantles the spirit. He dismantles them. He dismantles the animatronics in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 to specifically release the spirits. That's why he gets fired, if you remember correctly, tampering with the animatronics and odor. He breaks them. You could make the argument that actually, since William is his father, he does know, but nowhere else. I mean, you could say that he's actually dismantling them bit by bit, but I prefer to think that he just dismantles them, hitting or something like that, because an undead body with no skeleton, at least I don't think he's got a skeleton, okay, I could be wrong. I don't think you're going to have precise motor movements to precisely... Oh, what happened? I don't know. I don't think you're going to have enough movement to actually, screw... If you have, small screws and put them in. But anyway, let's continue.
That symbolically connects him back to his father. In short, we have Michael Afton in FNAF 4 saying the line, "You're broken," to his brother through the voice of a Fredbear plush. And here in Security Breach, if we're right about all this, we once again have him saying the same line, "You're broken," to his brother through the voice of another Freddy, this time Glamrock Freddy. I personally think it's a really cool narrative connection between all these games. But a lot of people were quick to point out that there's dialogue in the game files that was cut from the final release.
You're bleeding.
Where Freddy says that Gregory is bleeding. Specifically, he says,
Your arm is cut badly,
and
I am detecting blood. You are injured.
This, for many people, disproved that Gregory's an animatronic, and I actually have 2 things to say about that. First, when I've used cut lines of dialogue in the past, the internet has in no uncertain terms told me that I can't. But now apparently it's okay. Kinda inconsistent.
Double
guys.
standards,
Honestly,
right?
Cutting it, regardless of the reason, shows that it didn't fit the final creative intent of the game. But anyway, if that's the case, then I gotta bring this line up. A cut line of dialogue discovered by GB Aura Recharged in game files. This one is Freddy saying,
Gregory, I know why you're not in the customer database. I remember you from the...
and it cuts off. Obviously, it's vague. It's kept very intentionally vague, but it also shows that Gregory is special in a way that the other disappeared kids aren't.
Now that is interesting. I would actually pose another idea, which is that Gregory, shocker, is a new child. That has got no correlation with the Afton family or the Emily family or the prior murders or anything. My idea is, here as you could see right before here, if I go back very quickly.
But it also shows that Gregory is special in a way that the other...
Yeah, you see you've got 9 kids there. It says disappeared, okay? My theory is that Gregory is one of them. I'm serious. My idea, okay, like I said, personal headcanon and spitballing it has just come to my mind, okay? So I don't know, honestly, I have got no idea if anyone has thought of this before. And if they have, please tell me in the comment section down below if you've heard this theory before. Glamrock Freddy is one of those 9 disappeared kids, and the reason why when you go down into the old pizzeria underneath, and he says, my friends, they are angry and confused, I actually think that is the 8 others who are part of the blob. I actually do think that. All the other spirits that aren't in Glamrock Freddy are actually inside of a blob. Okay? That's what I think. And Gregory is somehow attached to those 9 children. For example, he's a friend of theirs or something like that, and he went there looking for them, okay? Could be, but like I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know, and I'm just spitballing theories right now.
Other disappeared kids aren't. There's a reason he's not in the customer base. He's from somewhere specific that Freddy knows about. If I were to guess, I'd say like the underground pizzeria, but you know, that's just me hypothesizing. Adding to the Gregory is special idea is the fact that Chica knows his name. She calls it out in the middle of the pizzeria. Strange detail for a kid who supposedly has no records in the system.
It was normal because if you remember, Roxanne, Monty, and Glamrock Chica, all of the three of them are supposed to be taken over by, by Vanessa, and Vanessa definitely knows your name. She definitely knows who Gregory is, and so I don't see that. I don't find that compelling argument because Vanessa could easily like put his name into. The speech box of both Chica, Roxanne, and Monty. But I don't really see that because we do tell us thanks to the tape recordings and also just by the way that she acts and also the fact that she's got a button that turns off the staff bots. She is a hacker, so I don't really see that as being a compelling piece of argument.
Secondly, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but in the books, because everybody loves when I go back to that well, animatronic children do actually bleed. They can also cry and feel cold. Heck, they can even feel hungry and eat. And you don't even have to go to the books for that one. You can just see it with Chica's pizza obsession and security breach. So to tell me that a robot child can't bleed? Yeah, I think you gotta really look at the franchise that we're talking about here. And for everyone who's confused about the timeline of Crying Child still being alive and the fact that he would be older at this point, that wouldn't actually be the case. Animatronic children in the books stay at whatever age they're built to be. Charlotte Emily actually had 4 separate versions of herself built, one for each stage of her life. So that way she could grow older, but she would just assume a new animatronic body each time. So Crying Child still being young would actually make more sense here. And everyone's saying, why would he say stuff like,
don't want to be crushed and twisted into a meat pretzel?
No, again, Charlotte in the books is shocked to learn her true nature in the final chapters. Her consciousness had been grafted onto a childhood toy while she was alive, and after her tragic death had been placed inside of a robot body to function as her memory. So for all she knew, she was just a normal human being just like anyone else. Is it dumb? Yeah, I'll say that it is. Is it complicated? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's FNAF,
but
everything's
is it giving
complicated.
us insight into the rules that Scott and everyone who touches this universe operate by? Yes, it undeniably is. Lastly, for everyone who spammed my feed with pictures of sad white boys in striped shirts saying that you had found the Crying Child, thank you for your help uncovering the lore. I get the joke. All white boys with brown hair and striped shirts are apparently the Crying Child. But remember what series we're talking about here, friends. Visual design details have always been an important part of figuring these games out. Take a look at Baby. During Sister Location, she has green eyes, but when you play her minigame, she has blue ones.
Yeah, but that one, of course. He's about to say it right now, okay? Unless he doesn't.
Until she kills Elizabeth Afton,
And she takes the
who
green
was
eyes.
told had green
Yes.
eyes. Superficial design
Eyes are
features like
important in
help
this
us to connect
series.
the dots. Are they the be-all and end-all of evidence? No,
No.
but they do help support an argument. So a little brown-haired boy in shorts with a shirt and 2 stripes seems sus.
Have you ever heard of Among Us, Gregory?
Speaking of eyes, for all the complaints about the last episode, no one seemed to have any answers to what I see as the 2 strongest pieces of physical evidence here. Why does Gregory look different when Freddy gets Roxy's X-ray eyes?
You look different to me.
And secondly, why does Gregory's vision glitch when he sees Vanny?
First one, I've got a hypothesis for. Second one here, maybe. Okay. First one's there. I can see you differently. That's easy enough to explain. Let's say, for example, that it's X-ray vision. Okay. Obviously, now he can see his internal organs. Yeah, if you saw my skin and then all of a sudden with a new pair of eyes, you could also see my brain, my heart, my lungs, my stomach, I would look different to you. And since I don't think that the Glamrock animatronic, Glamrock 3D, is programmed to know what a brain looks like, he would say you would look different to him, okay? And with Vanna here, I honestly don't really have that much of an explanation for why your vision glitches. I personally think it's it's just a design choice, an aesthetically design choice. It's non-canonical. That's a hypothesis that I have. So it could be completely wrong, but I think that this is just a design choice that Stillwell went with. The same reason why in Subnautica, if every year you don't have any more oxygen left and you're still trying to go up, your screen fades to black. Here's the same thing: is that it shakes the closer it gets to you. It could just be a design choice. Not everything in FNAF always has to have a deeper meaning behind it.
Why does he have such a weird visual reaction to her and to literally no other character in the game? Well, you hear that high-pitched ringing sound as Vanny skips and gets closer?
Wait a second. If he's gonna say what I think he might have just given me a reason.
It seems to be a disruptor that makes her invisible to animatronics.
Matt, you proved something a long time ago thanks to the books! A sound illusion disc! Wait. Sorry. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Matt Pat, in a long theory ago, he showed that in the series there are these things called sound illusion discs. Okay, let's see if I can find an example of it very quickly. Come on, load. So MatPat sound illusion disc. I'm probably not gonna find it by putting this in, but I'll try. Oh yeah, there you go. This should be the video.
Is generally true in visual perception. Without going into detail here, it's how optical illusions work, and there's been plenty of research on how the brain fills in.
Okay, Matt,
No detail.
if ever you watch this video, let me turn you to this video of yours from 2017, July 25th. FNAF, the answer was right in front of us. Sister location.
Is too small in this series, and Twisted Ones blew the lid off this disc's true purpose. Its little mystery being so important that it's the reason they're called the Twisted Ones in the first place. Stick with me now, because I'm not making any of this up. That little device from Sister Location is actually a mind control disc.
Yes?
Pause for all the stunned gasps.
Huh? Mind control disc. You proved it, Matt. You proved it. And he's even going to show you a section from the book in which someone describes what happens when you put a sound illusion disc near to your ear, if I remember correctly.
And requisite eye rolls. I'm sure a wave of nausea hit her, but it lasted only a split second.
A wave of nausea, like in blurred, impaired vision?
Something else about it had transformed at the same time. Its artificial skin took on a luminescence, and its movements were fluid and sure. Its casing suddenly appeared to have skin and fur, though they were blurry, flickering like a trick of the light.
Yes.
After destroying one of these twisted animatronics, Charlie and Boy Toy John discover a weird object embedded in the machine. Whoa, it was a flat disc, about the size of a $50 coin. She held it up to her ear. Wow, that's really high pitched.
Wow, that's really high pitched, hey? Huh. And also, since most of you should know, children have got a better hearing, even though here Charlie is... Sorry, I've got problems with my camera, with my phone right now, even though Charlie is supposed to be an adolescent. Gregory is younger. He could very easily have got a better hearing or, you know, just like a very sensible hearing, but he could actually hear the high-pitched squeal from a faraway distance. Matt, you proved yourself wrong in 2017, like 5 years ago. Oh, Matt.
animatronics with older model eyes. In the fire ending, Freddy, who couldn't see her at any point in the game, explicitly says,
I can see you now. I have new eyes.
I mean, this is exactly how the much-hated sound illusion discs from the books work.
Wait, you...
A high-frequency sound to make people and robots invisible and or
Yeah.
look differently. But I'm already fighting a losing battle over here, so I'm just gonna gloss over that one.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Reason is
Sorry.
Gregory's robotic eyes being disrupted. I mean, why have CRT lines over the screen and not some other type of filter to show that his vision is getting disrupted? In fact,
Well,
why...
because this is supposed to be like retro's 80s style, and so that makes more sense for his style, probably.
have the same CRT lines as the security cameras all around the Pizzaplex. But there's one final piece of evidence I'd like to talk about to help solidify that previous theory before we move on, and that is the screenshot here of the final scene from the Savior ending, where you rescue Vanny from the control glitch trap. And I use quotation marks here because there aren't any official sources giving names to the various endings. In the game files, they're just labeled as S1, S2, and S3 based on the number of stars that you get for them. It is worth noting, though, that this is the only 3-star ending that currently exists, which seems to imply that it has some level of importance to it. But here we see our three main characters, Gregory, Freddy, and Vanessa, all sitting on a hill, which, as I pointed out last time, is very similar to the FNAF 6 Gravestone Hill. But that's not what's important here. What I want to point out is the ice cream. Gregory is holding a golden Freddy-shaped ice cream with part of its head bitten off. If Gregory is not meant to parallel back to the crying child in any
he is a parallel, a bit like an allegory.
Just...
He's supposed to be like an allegory. That's how I see it. He's supposed to be an allegory for the crying child. But he isn't supposed to be the crying child, I think. For example, here, it's a reversal of situations right here. In the lore, it's the crying child who gets his frontal lobe bitten off. Here, it's Freddy. To use a style that we use in French a lot, an oxymore. It's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron, where two phrases parallel each other but are the opposite. No, wait. Could I be wrong about that? I'm trying to learn this for my test that I'm having soon, like a finals test. I have to learn different styles, and that's one of them. And now I'm so afraid that I got it wrong. Anyway.
Just mean and irresponsible. This ice cream is the crying child's story coming full circle. He was terrified of animatronics and ended up being bitten by the Golden Freddy spring suit. But now he's the one sitting on a hill taking a big old bite out of Golden Freddy. That is not me reading too much into this. That is me lightly interpreting a very clear image that was put directly into this game by the designers. It is barely even subtle. And despite him wearing a blue shirt in most of the endings, here his shirt is colored purple, just like his father's
shade much?
Everything else, his lack of records, the fact that he goes into the charging station. So I stand by my theory that Gregory is an animatronic of the crying child. Is it a perfect answer? No. Do I love the fact that it complicates the lore even more? No. But does it answer the most questions with the evidence that we have? I believe it does. And it's a heck of a lot better than Fazgoo. But now, 4 pages into this episode, let's actually stop to talk about Vanessa, shall we? Last episode I made a passing statement about how this final image felt to me like the 3 Afton children getting reunited. Crying child, Michael, and Elizabeth Afton, William's daughter that done got scooped by baby back in sister location. It's a scene that, to me, feels like the narrative finally giving them a sense of closure after they quite literally die as a result of their dad's evil deeds. Last time I briefly made mention of Vanessa's blonde hair and green eyes, which is the same as Elizabeth. And here, in this ending, we actually see 2 scenes of her wearing the signature Afton purple. Even the ice cream cone, as opposed to something like Gregory's novelty pop, is a potential callback to her death, where baby delivered an ice cream cone to her before she did the scoop.
Although if it was to be like that, and Studio Wall actually wanted to pin that, I actually don't believe that. It's 2 different ice creams. If they wanted to do that, they could easily just remake it. They easily could just remake that ice cream if they wanted to show the connection there. I mean, look, even if you look at the cone that she's wearing is supposed to be a waffle cone, if I remember correctly, if that's how you're supposed to call it in English, a waffle cone. Okay, but it's cone and circular shaped. This one isn't. It's supposed to, it's a different shape. So you could say that it's because of 16 or 8 or 16-bit 8-bit aesthetic. Anyway.
And when you look at the connection connections between these two characters, it's more than just a couple of visual similarities. The biggest secret in Security Breach right now is a series of 16 retro CDs, invisible collectibles that only Freddy can see, hidden in every obscure corner of the game's map. Then, to play these things, you actually need to have also found the secret sister location room that we talked about last time. Now, these CDs are, they're problematic. They open up a whole separate can of worms. They're recordings of therapy sessions following two separate individuals, patient 46 and patient 71. The exact identity of patient 46 is a theory for next time that will absolutely launch us into yet another flame war, but early in patient 71's tapes, we learned that it's actually Vanessa speaking.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you feeling today?
These are recordings from therapy sessions that Vanessa had while she was at the job for the FNAF AR game's special delivery. She mentioned speaking to a man named Lewis on several occasions, and we discover that she's also buying fake fur, both of which are things that we see in emails from FNAF AR. By the last of Vanessa's recordings, she's leaving that job for a new job somewhere else, most likely the job of security guard here in Security Breach.
I'm needed somewhere else now.
But let's dive into the good stuff, shall we? In Vanessa's second tape, we learn about a custody battle that happened between her parents. Her dad won using manipulative tactics, forcing his daughter to falsely testify.
Your dad made you follow instructions, didn't he? I'm talking about the custody battle between your mum and your dad. Your dad didn't play fair, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court.
After losing custody of her daughter, Vanessa's mother, well, here's what the tape does.
I know your mum after she lost the custody case.
It glitches, implying that her mother ended her own life, which would explain why Mrs. Afton is missing from all the games, and why she may have wound up being rebuilt as the motherly Ballora in Sister Location. A robot that, wouldn't you know it, sings about her inescapable depression now that the walls of her house are empty.
All I see is an empty room. No joy, an empty tomb.
We also hear Vanessa lines like this.
Oh, you like those? Apparently, the janitor on this floor has a garden and has been putting bouquets in the offices here for years.
Vanessa likes flowers. A small detail, but you know me, small details can often be the biggest evidence. Who else do we know in the series that has an affinity for flowers?
FNAF
Well,
4,
think
the
back to
girl
FNAF 4.
is into
Remember
her
this
pot.
random empty bedroom with a
Yep.
huge portrait of a flower on the
Oh, no,
wall?
it's not a
It was
pot, it's a
Elizabeth's
painting.
room before she got scooped. Then you have Vanessa lines like this.
Lots of people know more than I do. Sometimes I need to listen.
Now, this might be a stretch,
I have got a theory, which is either Mrs. Afton, or which is very likely, or someone in the Emily household, or someone who knew the Aftons or the Emilys, or who at least knows about what happened. Because if you remember in one of the messages you can get in Security Breach says that Vanessa was added onto this as security guard, as head security guard of Pizzaplex by someone high up. So we know there's someone high up in Fazbear Entertainment that actually knows about what happened and is actually bringing her there for a reason. But yeah, anyway, let's continue.
but I believe it's referring to when Elizabeth got scooped by Baby. Her dad had repeatedly and explicitly warned her not to go near Baby, but she didn't listen, and in doing so, she ended up getting herself trapped inside the animatronic.
Don't tell Daddy that I'm here. I wanted to watch your show too. I don't know why he won't let me come see you. You're wonderful.
Vanessa also says in her tapes that she doesn't like dark basements.
I have a craft space in my basement. Maybe I could come up with something you could learn to do. I don't like dark basements.
There are various accents. If you heard right there, Elizabeth, the actual canonical voice of Elizabeth, not Vanessa, is British. She has got a British accent, okay, in there. And the way that she talks. You're beautiful too. You're wonderful. Yeah. But you could also say that about William. She can dance. She can sing. And then with his, of course, signature phrase, "I always come back," which wouldn't really prove what I'm saying here. But I don't think, just on the accents alone, but that could be completely wrong. And I could be completely seeing it, idiotic things, which is probably because, I mean, look, Matt, Pat, and everyone at Ferris HQ has spent at least a week or two. So yeah, quite a while, and I've only spent a few seconds just coming up and just spitting random things that just come out of my head. So yeah, you can't really judge the two in quality. Me, it's not good quality.
Another line that seems to be pointing us in the direction of Baby, who is trapped underground for years in Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals, looking for a way back to the surface.
I've been out before, but they always put me back. They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here. There is nowhere to go.
And to put one final nail in this coffin, right back in the second CD, we actually learned the name of Vanessa's father.
I feel like I know your dad, too. Bill, right?
Bill is short for William. That's just the game trolling us with a coincidence, right? Wrong. See, going back to FNAF AR, we learned that Vanessa's last name begins with an A. From there, we can connect the dots. Bill A, William Afton. But didn't Baby burn at the end of FNAF 6? Well, yeah, she did, but you see how effective that was. How are you not dead? I mean, to be fair, the thought that burning him is going to work is stupid, because people have tried to burn him to death no less than 3 times in this franchise. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work! But here's the kicker. At the end of the game, we meet the Blob, a weird tentacle monster made up of all the original members of the series. FNAF 1's Chica and Bonnie, FNAF 2's Mangle, Sister Location's Funtime Freddy, a random endoskeleton crawling out of the bottom, the puppet mask without tears, I might point out, and Baby's face. Now, don't get me started on this being Baby's original face and not Scrap Baby's updated look where she came back to FNAF 6 in. I have words about that. Anyway, look at them all here on screen. You notice anything strange? Most of the animatronics' eyes are lit up. Funtime Freddy, Chica, Mangle, even this random endoskeleton at the bottom. But now take a look back at Baby's mask. The eyes are blacked out. So although the Blob has absorbed Baby's body during the burning down of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, her spirit, the spirit of Elizabeth Afton, is no longer present. It is unaccounted for. It is on the loose, and as such, potentially at large within the game. Is she, in some way, Vanessa? And if so, how? The truth is, I don't know. This game has got my brain in so many knots I might as well be a sailboat. I don't think there's any evidence to support any conclusion at this point in time. But I do know that this is what the evidence is heavily pointing us towards. The design similarities, the missing spirit, the purple color, the ice cream, the voice lines, the personality traits, and again, the narrative theme of 3 Afton kids reuniting and moving on after a traumatic past. It gives everyone this nice full circle ending, even if it...
Okay. Give me a second, I'm gonna do something. Okay, normally I should have a few minutes now. I am actually going to say something that a lot, and I do mean a lot of people, are not going to like. Which is going to be this. Fazgoo. Why would you have multiple stories in Fazbear Frights about Fazgoo? Because they are trying to imply something with it. Here's what I think. The Blob is a game version of Fazgoo. The Blob is literally that, okay? And so what I think is that Vanessa, okay, tried to... she arrived here because of reasons like I said. She called up by the higher-ups, by someone who knew about what happened, and they wanted to send someone, okay? Someone who they knew was going to be curious. I just thought of something, but you'll understand later, okay? Someone was curious about what happened before, okay? What happened before in Fazbear's, in FNAF's history, okay? Someone who is deeply connected, okay? Who could be a villain later on, okay? That's not important. What is important is that they sent someone, okay? Someone with no prior record, someone who was supposed to be curious, okay? So, they find someone curious who is working on FNAF AR, okay? They send her here because knowing that she's curious, they know that she's going to start snooping around. Doing so, she encounters a Blob, okay? Who at this point would be much smaller, okay, for my theory to work, because here the Blob will kill you, kills Gregory in the game. So it has to be smaller. which I'll explain afterward, which I'll explain very quickly. I actually believe Doku when he says that the blob has actually been going around the Pizzaplex, taking out pieces to create agony, okay? But very important. What is important is that thanks to this theory, you can say that the blob starts off small, but then gradually becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? I think that Vanessa touched the blob when she arrived, and a Fazgoo version of her appeared, except that unlike in the books where Fazgoo where it gets rid of your organs and everything, it just made a copy of her, taking and imbuing it with a spirit baby, which would be why the spirit of baby is if the lights in the baby's eyes are shut down. Okay, and let me finish. I don't understand where I'm going with this. The lights in baby are shut down because that spirit has found a way to go out into Fanny. Okay, while Vanessa is still roaming at large. And how do we know that there can be two? Because if you remember in one of the endings of FNAF Security Breach, where they're all the way at the top, and what happens during the fire ending, I think, when they escape, is that Freddy can actually see Vanny thanks to his new eyes, and he throws her off, and he kills her by throwing her off the roof, okay, while they both go down. But then you see Vanessa up there. Could that actually be just saying them that there were actually two? There was Vanessa and Vanny, but they're two different people. And also, by this theory, it can also explain why the puppet's eyes are not lit up. Because the puppet has actually escaped. Where? Oh, Gregory. And I know now this is going completely out of whack right now. This is going completely against so many things. But then again, this is the fun of it. Because Charlie in the games was supposed to inhabit the spirit of the puppet, okay? Henry's daughter died and took over the puppet. But she actually was released during the fire actually no, you don't even need to go that far. The puppet is Charlie is supposed to have escaped from the spirit. She is supposed to have escaped. So normally that should be normal, that the puppet's eyes are normal. So we don't even have to go and create a wacky fear with Gregory. I can just keep it like that. That now all the spirits are trying to escape, just like they say, just like Baby said. They always bring me back. What they want to do is go out and be free. They want to go out. To go out, they need to find a body that they can then take over and copy, which would also make sense in the books. In the second book, story of the first book, To Be Beautiful, that's what happens. The books of the Fazbear Friends version of Baby, Eleanor, is that even Eleanor? I don't even remember at this point. Takes over a girl's body little by little every night, taking off a piece of her. But here with my theory, using Fazgoo, you don't even have to go that far with her taking pieces of the body. It can just be that she copied Vanessa's body. It can make sense. And here, finally, she's at rest, Vanessa. Well, Vanny is at rest. Elizabeth's body died, okay? What do you guys think? I hope that you like, and I hope people actually find this video, because otherwise I just spitballed theories for no reason.
It's only meant to be symbolic, and the screen really does feel like it's the end, finally, for these three characters. Maybe next time we'll finally see some new faces. So enough about them, we're moving past those three. There's still other mysteries that we have to solve here. What happened to Glamrock Bonnie? Who is Patient 46 and why are they here? What's the deal with that room full of post-it notes? Yeah, you forgot about that one, didn't you? It's important. And did you happen to notice the other missing animatronic from this game? Because I certainly did, and I think they might be hiding in plain sight. So next time we get to cover some mysteries that don't require us talking about dead characters getting rebuilt into robots. Scratch that, we're talking about William Afton. it's kind of unavoidable at this point. Oh, this franchise is so ridiculous! Anyway, next time we're gonna sweep up a few other mysteries as we try to make more sense out of the game that quite literally threw everything against the wall to see what would stick.
Oh, it's done. How did I spend nearly an entire hour speaking about a 20-minute long video? Well, anyway, finally, I'm done. Now to edit this thing. I'm not going to spend an entire hour editing this video, no. I'm going to go as quickly as possible. Anyway, I hope you like this and I will see you next week. Goodbye.